Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by again. Today I'm just reading some stories from Malicious Compliance, and let's get right into it. My boss wanted me to train my replacement, but I didn't work there anymore. So I used to work in a grocery store back in 2016. I was 16 or 17 at the time. I don't work retail anymore, but I wanted to share this story I still remember to this day. It was a pretty normal night right before the end of my shift. I was one of the few closers at my store, so it was just me, my supervisor, and a cashier. I worked at the self-checkout / customer service desk. My supervisor had just collected the tills and was in the back counting, and I was starting my rounds to take back the non-perishables that were left at the registers. I also might add that our store had terrible camera placement. Basically, it showed all the registers and the supervisor's office door, which is where the safe was. This is important later. After putting up all the items that were left at the registers, I did my final checks of the store to make sure there were no misplaced or damaged items on the floor. I found a case of beer that was leaking in our beer and wine section, and since I wasn't sure how damaged the bottom of the cardboard case was, I had to drag it to the front so I could inform my supervisor about the damaged item before taking it to the back. We kept a cart full of damaged items to be taken out by the morning crew. And since the supervisor's office is locked while they're counting the tills, I call over to her and let her know that there was a damaged case of beer and I was taking it to the back. She responds with an absent, "Okay, sounds good." So I take it to the back and place it with the rest of the damaged items, and go back to the front to see if there's anything else my supervisor needs me to do before I clock out. There isn't. Next couple of days are fine as I finish up the week and wait for the next week's schedule to be posted, and I find out that I'm not scheduled for the next week. I figure there must have been a mistake, as there was someone working at the same grocery store who shared my first name. I go upstairs to my manager's office and ask him about the schedule and why I wasn't scheduled. He responds with a, "Oh, my bad, I forgot to tell you that you were suspended until the investigation is over. By the way, can you train your replacement today on the self-checkout customer service desk?" Me, confused and annoyed at the moment, don't really pay attention to the second part of his comment, ask him what he was talking about. My manager: "We caught you stealing that case of beer that you took to the back, and until the police investigation is complete, you won't be working here anymore. Please turn in your uniform, name tag, and badge." I am furious, but I decide that I would just go with a bit of MC in this situation. "Well, boss man, I took the damaged case of beer to the back to be thrown out in the morning as per procedure, but since I won't be working here anymore, I guess you'll just have to find someone else to train my replacement, since I clearly can't be trusted." I was the only person who could train someone for the customer service desk other than him. His jaw dropped. The look on his face was priceless as I took off my uniform and handed in my name tag and override card. I then proceeded to walk out, get in my car, and drive home. About 2 years later, I joined the army, and I'm going for a job that requires a security clearance. Guess what shows up? That suspension with an unfinished police report and the tapes from the security camera. I sit there with my interviewer as we watch the tape together, clearly showing that I did not steal anything. Needless to say, I was approved for my clearance. I ask if I can get a copy of the tape, and my interviewer agrees. It took 2 years, but I finally had the evidence I needed to sue for wrongful termination. But as the time is well over the statute of limitation, I am unable to actually do anything about it. Either way, I decide to go pay my old workplace a visit over the Christmas block eve, and a couple people recognise me, including my old boss. He tells me that thieves like me aren't welcome in his store, and that I need to leave or he would be calling the police. I told him to call them, and that his claim would surely hold up when I showed them the copy of the video footage of me stealing. The store had one of my favourite muffins, and honestly I really wanted one since they were only made there. So the police got called and did nothing, and I got 3 muffins free of charge thanks to my favourite supervisor. Worth it. They fired me before I finished my day. I'm a nurse. I work in nursing homes, rehabs, old folks homes, etc. I do the paperwork that is sent to Medicare. That paperwork has to be submitted in a timely manner or the facility goes from $700 a day to $200 a day. Just tossing numbers out, don't remember the exact amount. This is important in a second. I work for a facility that I loved. The people were wonderful, it was like a huge family. The staff ate their meals with patience, the independent people visited often, and our bosses were easy to approach. Then the bosses retired at the same time. Our board then decided that maybe we would make more money if we hired a management company. All of these changes happened within weeks of each other. They hired a travelling nurse to head up the skills nursing unit for a year. We didn't react well to her. She never smiled, she would just look at you if you asked a question, and she decided that new rules that didn't apply to her were needed. Shortly after her hiring, she began firing everybody. It was like a war zone had erupted on the floor. Nobody smiled, no laughter, no visitors, no family meals, and loads of stress. I was the last one fired. Oh, and I'd been written up. 0 write-ups when she walked in, for things like cell phone on the floor, my pocket, drink on my desk in my office, water, and filling a certification form late. Doctor signed it the day it was due, but they photocopied it before I'd left for the doctor's office. So they had their 3 write-ups. At 1500 on Friday, the administrator calls me into his office. I'm informed that I've been terminated. I'm floored. I work my ass off. I'm actually great at my job. I've been there 7 years. So I'm escorted to my office to gather my stuff. They've turned off my computer, asked for my passwords, and escorted me from the building. So here's where the malicious compliance comes in. They called me in to fire me just as I was creating the packet to send to Medicare. I was never able to send it. They never asked if things were situated since it was Friday, so I volunteered no information. Remember that timely manner? Well, that Friday was the very last day to submit about 30 different forms. Most were 14-day assessments that literally covered 14 days. Billing, friend, called and let me know that the default cost over $100,000 by the time they figured everything out. Homeless guy takes a cruise. So back during the first Gulf War, my wife and I were engaged and had a wedding and a honeymoon cruise to the Caribbean set up. All expenses paid, food, transportation, etc. On those things, they have all-you-can-eat buffets and a nice dining room. Both of us were active military. Well, the military announces they are sending her over to the Gulf. I stayed stateside, but had leave cancelled. They ship out 3 days before the wedding cruise. We were able to reschedule the wedding. Caterer, flowers, reception, DJ, they were all cool. So I called the cruise line and asked to reschedule. They said no, and the tickets were non-refundable. I tried to explain we were active military going to war. Nope, no deal. I speak to a supervisor. Nope. Asked the military to help out. No deal. We knew nobody in the area and none of our family could take the cruise. We were fucked. So we went to nearby San Francisco, went to the worst area and found the dirtiest, most malnourished homeless 2 people we could find. Lice, bad smell, shopping cart, the whole thing. I gave them the tickets and told them to eat well. The only caveat is I wanted them to send me a postcard so I knew they went. Gave them a stamped addresses envelope. Got a nice card from Martinique. I'll bet the cruise people were bummed. I have to show up at 8:30 no matter what the schedule says? You got it. So I was working for a childcare centre while I was in college. We staggered staff in and staggered them out so that we were always fully staffed when all the kids were there, and they had all the various arrival and leaving times. So staff could be scheduled to arrive anytime between 7:30 AM and 2 PM. I worked Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Even though my schedule was fairly permanent, I would check the schedule that got sent out every Sunday evening. It would always get sent between 6 and 9 PM, and it would be for that current week, so we had less than 24 hours notice for our weekly schedule. A hot mess express if you ask me, but I'm not in charge and my schedule is set, so I don't raise too much hell about it. One week I get the schedule and it says that my arrival time is 9 AM instead of my usual 8:30 for the entire week. I figure they're just trying to make minor cuts and they really like having everyone under the full-time threshold, so I just assumed they were barely cutting my hours so they could get away with it. No big deal, but I knew that most of the kids arrived at 9, so I'd need more time to set up. I get there at 8:45 on Monday and set up quickly and go about my day. I do a little prep Monday night so I don't have as much prep in the morning. So on Tuesday I get there at 8:55, clock in and begin my day. My week goes on like that with me prepping in the evening and getting there at 8:55 until Thursday when my boss calls me into the office and reprimands me for my tardiness. I tell her the schedule tells me that my arrival time is 9, so I'm actually arriving early every day. She says that the schedule says 9 just to indicate that you are the morning shift, but if you're scheduled for classroom time, you need to arrive at 8:30 regardless of what the schedule says, so you have time to set up the classroom. I don't agree with this at all, and it's obviously not true because not everyone arrives at 8:30 anyway. There has to be more distinction than just morning crew versus afternoon crew on the schedule, but she admits that she's partially to blame for the mix-up and doesn't turn it into a formal write-up. I start arriving at 8:30 every morning, just like I had been before the week in question. I'm not a late person. One week I was going to be scheduled for the 1 to 6:30 shift because another co-worker needed to switch with me and we both had agreed to do this. So the schedule comes out and says my arrival time is 1 PM. I arrive at exactly 8:30, clock in and sit my pretty butt in the office chair and wait. Well, eventually my boss notices that I'm just hanging out in the office and asks what I'm doing. I say, well, I was told to arrive promptly at 8:30 no matter what the schedule says, so here I am. She says, we don't need you here for the morning so you can clock out and come back when your shift begins. Nope. I say, you can find a task for me to do until my shift at 1 starts or I can sit here, but I'm staying clocked in. You were the one that said I have to be here at 8:30 no matter what. I'm just following your instructions. I had to deep clean the entire school until my shift actually started, but it was so worth it because I still got paid for the whole day and my boss had to admit to me that she was full of it. Watching her try to backtrack was the funniest thing that's ever happened to me. Hey guys, cheers for stopping by again. Hope you enjoyed a few of those stories. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.